Hello everyone, my name is Brayden, this is Airless Quill 9, and in today's video we're going to talk about the Demilich. So, a Demilich is a skull harboring the remains of a lich's wicked essence. So, if the burden of immortality overwhelms a lich, its consciousness turns inward as its body begins to rot away. But if its remains are disturbed, a Demilich will rise in its place. So Demiliches usually appear as skulls adorned with gems or arcane sigils, as is depicted in this artwork. And the presence of a Demilich has some regional effects on the layer that it inhabits. So we can see here that the region containing a Demilich's lair is twisted by its presence, creating the following effects. The first of these is Enervating Domain. Whenever a creature other than the Demilich or one of its allies finishes a long rest within 1 mile of the lair, the creature must succeed on a DC 20 Constitution saving throw, or have its hit point maximum reduced by 1d4. This reduction lasts until the creature finishes a long rest outside that area. And then secondly, we have Travel Ward. Creatures can't use teleportation or planar travel to enter or exit the lair, which is quite significant. Finally, if the Demilich dies or moves its lair elsewhere, these effects end immediately. So with these in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at the 2024 Demilich stat block, and then we will compare it to its 2014 counterpart. So here's the 2024 stat block of the Demilich. We see it is a tiny undead neutral evil. It has an armor class of 20, an initiative of plus 17, 180 hit points, a speed of 5 feet, a fly speed of 30 feet with hover. For ability scores, it has a strength of 1, a dexterity of 20, a constitution of 10, an intelligence of 20, a wisdom of 17, and a charisma of 20. It is also proficient in dexterity, constitution, intelligence, and wisdom saving throws. Resistances, it is resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Immunities, it is immune to necrotic, poison, and psychic damage, as well as the charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, poison, prone, and stunned conditions. Senses, it has true sight of 120 feet and a passive perception of 13. Languages, it knows none. It is a challenge rating 18 creature, meaning it has 20,000 experience points and a proficiency bonus of plus 6. However, it grants 22,000 experience points if encountered in its lair. For its traits, the Demilich has legendary resistance 3 per day or 4 per day if encountered in its lair, which is nice. It also has Undead Restoration. If the Demilich is destroyed, it reforms and regains all of its hit points in 1d10 days unless a wish spell is cast on its remains. In its action section, the Demilich has a multi-attack, allowing it to make 3 Necrotic Burst attacks. Necrotic Burst is a melee or ranged attack roll with a plus 11 to hit, a reach of 5 feet, or a range of 120 feet. And on a hit, it deals 76 necrotic damage. Howl is on a recharge of 5 to 6. It is a Constitution saving throw, DC 19, each creature in a 30-foot emanation originating from the Demilich. On a failure, a target of Howl takes 20d6 psychic damage, and on a failure or success, the target has the frightened condition until the start of the Demilich's next turn. In the legendary action section, the Demilich has 3 legendary action uses, or 4 if encountered in its lair, and it can use these uses to use any of the following legendary actions. Energy Drain is a Constitution saving throw, DC 19, targets 1 creature the Demilich can see within 120 feet. On a failure, the target's hit point maximum decreases by 46, and on a failure or success, the Demilich can't use this action again until the start of its next turn. Grave Dust Flight. says the Demilich flies up to its fly speed, shedding grave dust. Each creature within 5 feet of the Demilich as it moves is targeted once by the following effect. Constitution saving throw, DC 19. On a failure, the target has the blinded condition until the end of the Demilich's next turn. On a failure or success, the Demilich can't take this action again until the start of its next turn. And lastly, Necrosis. The Demilich makes 1 necrotic burst attack. So looking at the stat block, it's hard to see what has changed until we go to the next slide, in which we'll take a look at all of the changes made from the 2014 version of the Demilich. And you can see here in just a second how different this is. All right, so as you can see here, the Demilich has seen quite a few changes from its 2014 counterpart. First off, we can see that the initiative score is now a plus 17. Previously, it was just the dexterity modifier plus 5, so that is a huge increase there to the initiative bonus. Next up, we need to talk about hit points, because in 2014, the Demilich had 80 hit points. So it only had 32 d4 for hit dice. So since 2014, its hit points have gone over double. So that is a humongous increase in protection for it. We can also see here some minor changes, specifically the fly speed, or in the speed section, it used to have a 0-foot movement speed. It now has a 5-foot movement speed. So if for some reason it's not flying, it can move a tiny bit on the ground. In the saving throw section, it lost proficiency with charisma saving throws, but it gained proficiency with dexterity saving throws. And there is a reason for that, which we will talk about in a second. In the resistances section, the resistances to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage used to be from magic weapons specifically, and it used to be immune to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks. So this has changed in that the resistance is now just flat out to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, and there's no longer an immunity to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. So that's a small change, but relatively it's about the same. Next up, we can see that you gain additional experience when encountering the Demilich in its lair. That was not a mechanic previous in 2014, but it is present here in 2024. We can also see that the Demilich has an additional lair action and additional legendary action usage when encountered in its lair as well because of that. So those are some benefits from encountering the Demilich in its lair, which were not present in 2014. So those are nice to see. Now, the Demilich did lose the avoidance and the turn immunity traits that it used to have. Avoidance was basically the evasion feature that rogues get. So that has been completely removed. Instead, the Demilich now has proficiency in dexterity saving throws instead. So honestly, that's pretty close to what that trait did, but not exact. So I feel like that's the reason they got proficiency in dexterity saving throws, since that trait was removed. They also lost turn immunity, but the cleric's turn undead feature in 2024 now applies the frightened and incapacitated conditions. So since the Demilich is immune to the frightened condition, the turn undead feature isn't really going to affect it that much. So that is the reason that turn immunity has been removed. Next up, we need to talk about the actions, because the actions have changed significantly from 2014. First off is the addition of a multi-attack option and the necrotic burst attack. Both of these were not present in 2014, so these are entirely new options, and these also seemingly replaced the life drain action that was present in 2014. Life drain was a DC 19 Constitution saving throw, could target 3 creatures within 10 feet of the Demilich, and on a failed save, each creature lost 66 or took 66 necrotic damage, and the Demilich regained hit points equal to the total damage dealt to all targets. So that effect is no longer present here. Instead, there's just this necrotic burst that deals damage, and slightly more damage than life drain dealt, and it's now an attack roll instead of a saving throw. So do with that as you will. That is a significant change there, and it's no longer a hit point regain attached to life drain either. So that is a significant change there. But really, the most interesting change here is to the Howl action. So Howl is quite different. Beforehand, it used to be a DC 15 Constitution saving throw. It is now a DC 19, so it's scaling off a different modifier than it did before. And that 30-foot emanation is just some new language. It did affect the same amount of creatures, but on a failed saving throw, the target would drop to 0 hit points. And on a successful save, they would become frightened until the end of their next turn. So what they've done here is now on a failure, a target takes 20d6 psychic damage. So that's a significant change there. And then regardless of if the target fails or succeeds, they become frightened until the start of the Demilich's next turn. So that is an entirely new mechanic that is quite different from 2014. Pretty interesting to see there. Finally, we need to talk about the legendary actions. There are 2 legendary actions that are missing from here that have been completely removed from 2024. These are the Flight and the Vile Curse legendary actions. Flight just simply allowed the Demilich to fly up to half its speed, or half its fly speed rather. And then Vile Curse targeted 1 creature within 30 feet. It was a DC 15 Wisdom saving throw, or the creature became cursed, and until the curse ended, the target had disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws, and it could repeat the save at the end of each of its turns. So those have been completely removed. Energy drain was present beforehand, but it has changed slightly. So it used to be a DC 15 save. It is now a DC 19, so that isn't buffed there. And it used to target each creature within 30 feet of the Demilich. Now it just targets 1 creature the Demilich can see within 120 feet. So the range has gone up, but the number of creatures it targets have gone down. Finally, the hit point maximum reduction has gone up, actually. It used to be 3d6, now it's 4d6. So that is an increase there. So do with that as you will. There are changes to that energy drain. And as far as I can see, Grave Dust Flight is kind of just a rename of Cloud of Dust. But beforehand, the feature targeted each creature within 10 feet of the Demilich. And now it allows the Demilich to fly up to its fly speed. So the Demilich can now move as a part of Grave Dust Flight, which it did not which it was not able to do before. And the targets that it targets are different because now it just targets each creature within 5 feet of the Demilich as it moves with this legendary action. But it still applies the blinded condition until the end of the Demilich's next turn like it used to before. And the DC is now a 19 instead of 15. So there are significant changes to that particular feature, but I think overall the mechanics of it are better. Granted, if the Demilich is flying with this feature, it may provoke opportunity attacks if it doesn't blind the targets that it is flying by, so do keep that in mind when using this particular legendary action. And then finally, Necrosis just simply allows the Demilich to make 1 Necrotic Burst attack, and this was not present in 2014, but it is present here in 2024, because that is now an action option available in 2024. So yeah, those are all the changes to the Demilich. And yeah, that's everything that we have to talk about with this particular stat block and the changes made since 2014. But that is going to be it for this particular video, so thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please feel free to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. This is the last video of the week, but we do release these videos every weekday, so do keep an eye out from them. We are going through every monster in the 2024 Monster Manual, and we are finally in the D section, so we are progressing slowly but steadily. So keep an eye out for those videos every weekday. But until next week, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all in the next video. See you later.